Welcome back to Crystal Clear! I'm UltraVox, and despite the theme song for Steven Universe Future promoting the idea that everyone is here, 10 episodes into the epilogue series, and it feels like we've barely spent any time with the characters we know and love. We have heard Ian Jones Cordy's beautiful voice come out of an uncorrupted gem before Bismuth has had a single line of dialogue. Not to mention with how popular the movie became, attracting new fans and old fans who fell off the series, I'm sure you may be wondering where a certain pigtail gem is. Or that Steven has yet to have any screen time with Connie, which may be a bigger shock due to her role and appearances in the original series. Not to mention her smooching Steven on the cheek in the movie. With so many characters missing in action, the least you could get is a reason why. Well, I have an answer. Arguably, the answer on why Steven Universe Future has been skimming out on character appearances beyond Steven, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl. So as always, let's dive in. Now, the first thing I want to address is why it's reasonable to be upset over the lack of character screen time thus far. Simply because the narrative and end of Season 5 sets up the expectation of more. More characters, more appearances, and more interactions. The two final arcs of the original Steven Universe series paints the image that the limited character reaction prior was completely intentional. Lapis and Peridot being at the barn, Bismuth being bubbled in Lion's Mane, and then shortly after bubbled in the burning room, whereas Steven and the Crystal Gems were the main focus, but spent all of their time on Earth due to the ever-looming threat of the Great Diamond Authority. They cannot go to Homeworld, they would be shattered on sight. Yet, after finding out the truth about Rose Quartz and the Pink Diamond, followed by a wedding that was really interrupted, all of the Crystal Gems were finally united. Not just Steven, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl, but Bismuth, Peridot, Lapis, and Connie. An idea that was later reinforced in Change Your Mind. This little family was stronger than ever. And now that they all finally reached a beautiful understanding, there was no reason for them to be apart. The destruction of Steven's house also lent to this idea. After all, if Bismuth has to rebuild the house, perhaps she can compensate and create rooms for her, Peridot, and Lapis. The future was bright, and it seems as if in terms of cast, the Steven Universe we always wanted was finally here. However, many months later, Steven Universe the movie came along, and with very clear intent, it set out to dial back those expectations, kinda giving us a small little nudge that hey, this franchise is still about Steven, Garnet, Amethyst, and Pearl first and foremost. Not only was the original trio of gems the core focus, having their memories reset by Spinel's Rejuvenator, but we also got the introduction of Little Homeworld, which solved the mystery of where all the crystal gems would go, because there was no way they were all going to live in Steven's house. Yet, much to our dismay, the movie's secondary focus of Peridot, Lapis, and Bismuth, alongside Bismuth's new forge being located in Little Homeworld, indicated to us that they would remain recurring characters. But hey, recurring characters isn't all that bad. After all, Connie falls under recurring character, but she still had plenty of moments in screen time. Same goes for Greg. However, that brings us to Steven Universe Future, and their utilization, or in some cases, restrictions, of these characters who we expected so much more out of. Steven Universe Future has really stuck to its guns about being an epilogue series, as the focus has been closed in to Steven, and really exclusively Steven. Each episode has served to further his arc in some way, shape, or form, while sprinkling in character moments here and there. Whereas the original series would definitively have a Pearl episode, a Garnet episode, an Amethyst episode, stories that highlight those characters through the lens of Steven, every episode of Future almost plays as the exact opposite, except we're still bound to the Steven perspective. A prime example of this would be volleyball. Pearl fans were certainly fed, and we got to learn more about both of Pink Diamond's pearls, and their relationships with her. However, while it does provide closure to these gems, everything is driven by Steven. How he doesn't want to hear another horrible thing about his mother. Guidance is another example. We get to see how much Amethyst has developed, her leadership skills, but the conflict at hand still revolves around Steven. Little Graduation gave us Sadie and Lars development, a bit of closure on their end, but it still comes back to Steven's problems. Because of these reasons, other characters have been kind of given the shaft. Now more than ever, it's Steven's story. As a result, the Crewniverse, going off what we've seen thus far, are only involving characters who are needed for the particular story of each episode. Not really throwing in other characters who aren't needed just to say, hey, they're there. though I would argue the unencrypted gems are a bit of an exception. However, this isn't the only reason, and I'd be a liar to say it was. In fact, that wasn't even the point I was trying to make with this video. Characters aren't missing in Steven Universe Future just because it's Steven's story. That'd be a cop-out answer, but even beyond that, it's more of a product of what's really going on. The reason why there's such a noticeable lack of characters in Steven Universe Future is due to a reason that has been plaguing the series since the very beginning. It's something that every animated series has to deal with. And unfortunately, I don't believe the Crewniverse has the power to change it. It's a wonderful 6-letter word that begins with a B. Budget. Particularly in this case, voice budget. When it comes to animation, the voice cast and budget is everything. So, some characters only have a finite amount of appearances per season. Now the good news is for Steven Universe Future, those appearances are being saved for later. Again, this has always been a thing. It's just more noticeable now since they added every character under the sun in the theme song. To regurgitate a Twitter thread I had a while back, using the credits for Change Your Mind as an example, Zach Callison, Dee Dee Magnahall, Michaela Dietz, and Estelle have always been the only cast members credited as featured. Everyone else, since the very beginning, has always been listed as additional voice roles. That includes Greg, that includes Connie, that includes Peridot, Lapis, and Bismuth. And again, as you'll see with the credits to Change Your Mind, Zach, Estelle, Michaela, and Dee Dee are credited for their respective roles. While everyone else, the Diamonds, Fusions, Lars, Sadie, the Off-Colors, they're all additional voices. Meaning they weren't signed on to appear in every episode. Hell, not even every other episode. And with any TV show, the bigger the cast grows, the more difficult it is to utilize each and every member. Now, Steven Universe Future is a bit of an oddity. Since Peridot sings the last few words of the theme song, her voice actress Shelby Rabara has been added to featured voices, because technically, Peridot now appears in every episode, right at the beginning. But using the episode Bluebird for example, as you may notice, Greg is listed as an additional voice, alongside Larimar, Aquamarine, Eyeball, and even the Bluebird Fusion, who's the main antagonist and arguably focus of the entire episode. But it doesn't stop there. Hopping right back to the original series, using Connie as an example, as I feel as if she's the most consistent recurring character next to Greg. With seasons 1A, 1B, and season 2 respectively, Connie has 6 speaking roles per season. Season 3, she only has 3 speaking roles, and seasons 4 and 5, she has 8 respectively. Now, I went out on a limb on my Twitter thread and suggested season 4 had 8 appearances because of her limited appearances in 3. As for season 5, it was 32 episodes in production order instead of 26. So I'm gonna make the assumption they had a slightly bigger budget to accommodate those additional episodes, and thus enabled more appearances from Connie. Now, I know the concept of the show's budget has floated around before, and I usually see comments like, oh, they need to stop casting expensive voice actors. Which, in this case, the price of the voice actor doesn't even matter as much as how much the cast has grown. In the case of Steven Universe Future, it really is just a matter of the Crewniverse picking and choosing which characters to use carefully. Like, really think about this here. Imagine being in the position of the writers. You have all of these characters to play with, but you're under the restriction of an exact amount of money you can use for all of these characters. And side note, if you're thinking, oh, why doesn't Cartoon Network just increase the budget? One, as I said in a previous video, they might have lost potential funding from the Rufire wedding. And not to mention, Steven Universe is not the only show that exists on Cartoon Network. This is a business first and foremost. They offer more than one product. And to fund those other products, all of these shows had to be given a proper budget. And while I'm sure favoritism is a thing, they really can't afford to play it that hard. This is why a lot of characters have been silent. For example, using Little Graduation, the Off-Colors and the Cool Kids except for Jenny are all mute. I bet we'll see most of the unencrypted gems speak who haven't already, and characters who may speak in one episode could be completely silent in the next, such as Cherry Quartz. Now luckily, the lore of Steven Universe has some built-in loopholes, such as certain kind of gems having the same voice actress. All the amulets are going to be voiced by Michaela, and Kimberly Brooks has had the luxury of voicing a range of court soldiers. But above all else, just because your fan favorite character hasn't appeared or spoke yet, doesn't mean they're not going to speak at all. These appearances are being saved for when they're absolutely needed. And if anything, now that we're down to the final 2 antagonists in the theme song, and we've gone pretty much half of a season without some appearances of beloved characters, it only means that when their time comes, they're going to be vital to the story of Future. So people who want to see the Diamonds, Spinel, Bismuth, Peridot for more than 2 seconds, and Connie, I think you're going to be extremely satisfied for when they finally appear. And I do believe it'll be more than just one episode. I believe believe all these characters could have a role in the endgame, roles that will naturally dedicate multiple episodes. And considering what we've been given so far, a brawl between Jasper and Steven, a slew of uncorrupted gems working in the town, the Rose Quartz gems, a brand new antagonistic fusion, Homeworld Lapis Lazulis, I truly think it's kind of fair that the Crewniverse hasn't involved other characters yet. Although I will still argue that Connie should have been in Bluebird, considering she was right by Steven's side for most of his experience of Aquamarine. However, something else we have to keep in mind is that most of these character arcs are completed. Again, Future is all about Steven. The only other arc that's truly up in the air to be fleshed out is Jasper. And I just mean the gems that are usually used to promote the show. But even with Jasper, her arc seems to be intertwined with Steven's. So I'm not really sure on how much development we should expect there. That's not to say no one will ever get focused again. I certainly believe we'll get more episodes like Volleyball, like Guidance, like Little Graduation, that develops both Steven and another character or two. But our Nikki boy is going to be the star of this epilogue until the very end. So get excited. Again, your favorite characters will make an appearance, and going off the road so far, they will be major appearances to the story, but also don't expect too much. Don't think when Future returns, every episode will be balls to the walls with characters appearing every 5 seconds, but just be cautiously optimistic. The Crewniverse is truly doing their best. Again, imagine having so many characters, but money, the thing that makes the world go around, is the thing that's keeping a leash on your creativity. Can't get Bismuth, Paradigm, Lapis in this episode so easily. I imagine it must be kind of aggravating, and it definitely stifles storytelling. But I have a good feeling everything's going to work out. But as always, these are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. What do you think? Which characters are you really looking forward to in Steven Universe Future? Did this video give you any clarity? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or tweet your thoughts at Roundtable Vids. And for more of my own thoughts, you can find me at ARTWITHKODA. We're also on Instagram. Special thanks to ARTWITHKODA for creating an awesome thumbnail. For more of his wonderful art, you can find him on Tumblr and Instagram at ARTWITHKODA, and subscribe to his YouTube channel. Link down below in the description. Help the Roundtable grow by either becoming a member of the channel or supporting us over at Patreon. Link in the description. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to the Roundtable for more great cartoon content. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. ARTWITHKODA signing out.